Hello and welcome back to Black River Paranormal Investigations. I'm your host Rich Hardway, and if you caught my last video in sequence, I just bought my grandparents a little white house. Hopefully you've heard that video. I'd like to expand on that. It's going to be probably 10, 12, maybe 15 videos before I get out of this house to go through some of the stuff that happened. But so it's spring of 2000. I've owned the home maybe 4 or 5 months. I moved in there with my girlfriend at the time. Her name is Lisa Sims, and we got married and divorced while I owned this home. She actually was the first one to start noticing things. One time we're sitting there watching TV and she says, there's a guy standing on our front steps looking in the screen door at us. And I turn and I look and I don't see nothing. And she, it kind of creeped her out. And we talked about it. I went outside, looked around, didn't see nothing. It happened again. She saw this same person again outside of the house, kind of looking in through the front door. She jumped up, she ran to the door, but there was nothing there. From that point on, I don't know exactly when, I can't remember how soon, but in pretty fair order, she discovered that the person she kept seeing was my grandfather, Ermine. My dad's dad. So those two instances, he came to the front door. He never came in, but he was like looking through the glass of the front door, the screen door, if you will. There was another time that she saw him there. I remember we were sitting in the living room and it was dark. The TV was on, and the glow of the fish tank. We had a 55-gallon fish tank in the living room. And that was on. The lights for that was on. And she saw him, and she invited him in. She's like, just without even telling me anything, she was just like, "It's okay, Ermine. You can come in. You're always welcome here." And a few moments later, she claimed that he was standing by her fish tank. I did not see him at this time. I see him later on another day, but I do not see him at this time. But she's just telling him he's always welcome in our home. She was very paranormal friendly. She believed in it, as did I. And she had a few encounters in the house with all the spiritual characters I'm gonna talk about. But on her third sighting, she claimed that Ermine did come in the house, and he stood there looking at us, and then he walked into the kitchen. And before he got to the new addition, she said he just dissipated. He just disappeared. I didn't see Ermine probably for about a year. And then I saw him one day sitting on the back porch. I was in the house, and it was about 7:30. It wasn't quite dark yet. It's probably like the time you're starting to think about flicking on your porch light. And I walked out. I was going to go to the garage. This house had a detached 3-car garage. Car door was only meant for two cars, but had a walk-in man door and enough room definitely to get a third car in there. So I'm going to head to the garage, and as I stepped, so I'm stepping through the screen door onto the porch. There sat Ermine. And he sat like an old man. You know how the old men sometimes would cross their legs, kind of like the girls sit today? Well, that's how he was sitting. This skinny, ribby man, small little guy, I think he was only like 5'6", and bone thin, was sitting in his chair on the porch, legs crossed. And he looked at me, and I looked back at him, and he was gone. things happened in the house leading through the first year or 2 years. Like you would turn a light off, and you would you're walking through a room, and you flip the light switch, let's say the kitchen, and you're headed to the back hallway to go in the back bedroom. And as you're leaving the kitchen, you flick the light off. You know you did. This happened over and over and over again. You flick it, you take 5 steps down the hallway, you turn to the right to go into the bedroom, and that damn kitchen light is on. And you'd have to turn around and go back and manually turn that thing off again. That happened several times. So if it happened one time, I'd be with you. I'd be like, okay, flick the switch. It didn't go down. Ha ha, I'm tricked. I thought I turned that off. But because it happened multiple times, I'd argue with you all day that we flicked it off and it came back on. It happened to me. It happened to Lisa. Things you would set down would vanish. You come home from work and you'd set your cigarettes and lighter down on the kitchen table, and you turn to the kitchen sink. So you got your back to the table, and you wash your hands, and you're starting to think about dinner or whatever. You turn back around, and your lighter's gone. And that lighter would be gone for 3-4 days, maybe a week, and then it would appear in other places. Sometimes in the bathroom on that sink, sometimes on your pillow or your nightstand, or maybe it would show up in the on the couch cushion or something. Your car keys, that used to happen. We used to have a spare set to every lock or key we had, because you'd set down a set of car keys coming in the door, and damn it, they wouldn't vanish, and you'd be hunting for them for days, and you can't find them anywhere, and all of a sudden, there they are in your dresser. Those things like that. In a previous video, I talked about the addition being built onto the back of the house, which added the laundry room, the furnace room. That's the first time the house ever had a furnace. First time the house ever had hot water. You had a room there with a hot water tank and the furnace, and then you had the washer and dryer room. There was a new bedroom in the back. And that all happened in 1967, 3 years before my grandfather dies of his heart attack. Anyway, you could get into an attic section in the back of the house by standing on the washer and then up through the trap door in the ceiling of that room. Okay, so that section was its own room in the attic, if you will. The original house where it stopped still had the outside sealed wall running all the way to the new peak roof of the house. The original section had a slant roof like this, but somebody roofed over it with a peak when they added the addition to it. Obviously my grandfather, wherever he had helping him. So you go up there and you're in this little sealed, empty attic space. I filled the attic space with boards with the intention of, because it was just rafter beam, and insulation in between. Well, I covered it over. I decked it over with 2x8 plank board. My intention was to use it for storage, fake Christmas tree, Easter decorations, all this stuff. Before I planked it over, you'd be laying in bed in that spare bedroom, and you would hear a chair or something going back and forth across that floor. But there ain't no floor. There's just the rafters, right? Sometimes, I swear, you could hear voices up there. I remember one time, Lisa was so sure somebody, some fugitive, was literally hiding in our attic that she made me get out of bed at like 11:30, 12 o'clock and go open up that hole and stick my head up there to see. I had permanently mounted a mechanic trouble light right there by the hole. So when you opened up the little square trap, right there's the extension cord, you plug it in and you could light that up like a 80-watt light bulb in that trouble light. So you could see really good. There was nothing in it. Well, it definitely wasn't no people, and it wasn't no floor for anybody to be dragging anything over at that time. But yet you'd hear stuff like that. Um, the last, this is kind of my introduction to my grandfather Ermine. I I have another one I'm going to save for when the ghost hunters from Pennsylvania come down. I don't want to spoil that one yet. That's a really good one. But I do want to talk about being in the garage one time. And I don't know what to think of this. To this day, my mind is blown on this comment I'm about to tell you. So I'm a out of body tech. I did a lot of work in my garage at home, working on cars. Did a little welding, a little fabricating, paint, body, stuff like that. I'm building myself a rack to hold steel. Because in my garage there's just sheet metal and angle iron and piping and all. It's just scattered all over the place. So I decided I'm going to build myself this A-frame rack that has arms on it that I can store my metal that I use in projects in a nice, neat, orderly fashion. Okay, so I'm in the garage. It's probably about 10 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock, and I'm welding this thing together out of angle iron. I had my welding torch ready to spark an arc, and this is back when you didn't have auto helmet. You had to flick your head down helmet type. And off of my left shoulder, I see the garage man walk door open. And I swear to you, my dad stepped foot in the garage. Remember, he lives next door now. My parents, after I bought this White House, my parents buy the house next door to me. Like a year and a half later, they move in. So he's just next door. I'm ready to strike this arc. And I'm like, hey, Dad, what you doing? Watch your eyes a second. I gotta weld this. And I flick my head down and I'm welding this piece. And I flick my head up and I'm like, so what you doing today? And I turn to look that way. Door's closed. He's not there. I just think, well, he saw me getting ready to weld. He didn't want his eyes shocked, or burnt, so he left, right? He didn't want a welder's flash, and he closed the door, and 5:30 rolls around, 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'm in a garage still. I'm putting the finishing touches on my rack, right? I've done all my welding, and now I'm sorting, and I'm putting my metal on it all proud of myself for what I built. My dad opens the door and walks in. Hey, what you doing? And I said, I just finished in this rack I was working on earlier when you was over here. He said, I wasn't over here. I go, you had to be. I said, I seen you walk in. I seen the door open. I seen you take a step in. You were right there by the air compressor. I had a big, tall, 80-gallon upright air compressor, bright blue. And you come in the doorway, and it's like right there. I go, you were right there in front of the air compressor. I saw you. He said, no. He said, you're mistaken. Somebody else came in here maybe, but it wasn't me. He said, I got up early. He said, you were still sleeping when I left. I left with your mother, and we went out to Prime Outlets in Lodi. He goes, and we just got home. He goes, I haven't been home 10 minutes. Somebody opened that door. Somebody come in that door. Now, you could mistake my dad's features probably for my grandfather's, right? Or maybe his brother. Somebody opened that door. Some spirit opened that door, I'm telling you. I know it wasn't my step-grandfather because he was as big around as he was tall, and I don't even think he was 5'5" tall. He looked like Humpty Dumpty. That's not who come in that door. This was somebody thin like my dad. Look like my dad. And I don't know. I'm torn. Could it have been my grandpa? Could it have been my Uncle Dale? I believe it was one of them. I just don't know which one. I can't say it was anybody else because I really didn't have anybody ever stop over there. That wasn't family, right? So there would have been no friend of mine or neighbor of mine that would have opened the door to see what I'm up to and see I'm welding and leave. Obviously, if it had been like a family member, they'd have stuck around and said hey or something. So that's the mystery of the garage welding day. I don't have an answer for that, other than something opened that door and stepped in there, and I spoke to it. So that's the introduction video to my grandfather and who became my second wife. We weren't married very long. We dated a couple years. I bought that house. She was in the house a couple years as my girlfriend. I marry her. She finds somebody else and she takes off. She may watch my videos. She may chime in the comment section. Lisa, you're more than welcome to do that if you want, and tell your own experiences about the house that you had when you lived there. You can kind of back me up when I start talking about some of the stuff that you can recall and you remember if you want. So this video has gone extra long, and I got a feeling that some of these house videos probably are. There's just a lot of things to talk about. But until next time, this is Rich with Black River Paranormal Investigations. Leave some comments if you like the videos. I'm going to try to get to current modern day, and then we're going to start taking videos. We're going to go on ghost adventures with you and have you share. But right now I'm just trying to get you caught up on my life, my timeline, if you will. And since I wasn't a ghost hunter back there, I had no equipment, I wasn't taking video or photos or anything, I just don't have anything cool to show you. I only have my memories and facts of what I've been through and been through with people. My ghost hunting adventures really kick in once I start dating a lady who becomes my fiance named Sherry. She was into the paranormal. I'm already out of the White House. My 10 years is gone with the White House. And I meet up with another woman, and she's into it. And we have some amazing, amazing stories to share with you. Hopefully, she may chime in at some point. We've kind of been, our relationship's kind of been pretty bad for the last year and a half. Unfortunately, we separated, broke up, and it hasn't been that good. But I know she's seen some of these videos, and hopefully in the future, maybe she'll join me or she'll chime in on the comments and at least verify some of the things I'm going to talk about. Because to be honest, if you're not a believer, if you're a skeptic, you probably sit there going, this guy's making this stuff up. If I hadn't seen and heard and been through the things I've been through, I'd probably be saying that too. So until next time, like I said, this is Rich with Black River Paranormal Investigations. Catch you soon.